Hello, and welcome to episode 25 of IP3 podcast. I'm Kevin Brayer, joined today by both Rhea Adams and Alex Becker. Uh, Today we're going to be talking about some LL, talking about some BNR announcements, talking about the Yarl uh, Origins Armory deck, um, as well as some Battle Hardened action from this past weekend.
Yeah, we have a breakout star among us, right?
No, Dan's not on the podcast. He's yeah.
Okay, plain humble. Okay.
I was fortunate enough to top eight the Battle Hardened Columbus this past weekend, playing my trusty chain deck, and then uh, friend and local Dan Grossclose was able to uh, take down that same event playing Zen. Um, of Zen's demise in the format have greatly exaggerated. Just a little.
Has Dan won every Columbus Battle Hardened now?
No, there was
No,
one.
Two?
Yeah,
there was one in Lexi Meta.
yeah.
Yeah.
I played Vincent at
Who
it.
won that? Lucas Oswald, I think.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he is, I believe, the first person ever to be like Battle Hardened City. Like he's a two-time Battle Hardened Columbus champion, and I'm pretty sure no one else has ever won an event in the same city twice before.
It it is a new feat, I believe. Yeah,
Yeah.
to repeat in a city like that. I also realized a very not quite a statistic, but Rhea, you won 2 Battle Hardens. I was
I
there.
did.
Dan has won 2 Battle Hardens. I was there for both of them. Mark won a calling earlier this year. I was there for that. Don't go to events without me, I think
You're
is
the good
the
luck charm.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Always a bridesmaid, never a 6/6 demon, I guess. I don't know. So I guess we could start real quick with the BNR announcement just to touch on it real quick. I don't think there's anything
Hold
too
on.
crazy in here. Oh,
Before we get into that, I said I was going to do this last week, and I forgot, and I said I was going to do this the week before that. I forgot. Like and subscribe at the top of the episode. And then
Wow.
also, after failing to record a Verdance deck tech because my headset died 20 minutes in and didn't give me a notification, I did finally get to re-record that, and so that'll be coming out later.
Later this week.
Yep.
yes, indeed, Verdant Deck Tech head in A. So BNR announcement. Little bit of surprise, a little bit of not surprise sprinkled in. This might be the first announcement where they've touched actually every format aside from UPF, but UPF it lives in its own world. I don't know if they've hit like 4 for 4 before, but there's changes to CC, Blitz, Living Legend, and Commoner this time. And Classic Constructed should be to no one's surprise if you pay attention to the various James White interviews that come out. But High Octane was banned. Rip Max Nitro. You'll be back. You're too cool to not be back. Maybe they'll get you a new wrench or something.
So unhype.
Yeah, very unhype right now. Just young Max Nitro, only 20 health. In addition to High Octane being banned, we've got Count Your Blessings Blue only also being banned.
It's the first time they've banned only a single color, right?
Nope, they did it with Bonds of Ancestry.
Bonds.
They banned blue and yellow bonds.
I guess single color technically, yes.
Oh, okay, fair. Touche.
Technically
Alex-
correct. The best
Alex
kind of
wins
correct.
on the technicality.
Yeah, so now instead of 9 cards that yield 54 health, you run 6 cards that yield 30 health.
Hold on, let me break out the calculator.
No, I did the math a couple days. Like when they banned it,
Oh,
I was like, what's the difference now? So on rate, so if you play out all 9 count your blessings, you get 6 value per card at base, not even taking into account you have an extra floating resource that you can do other things with when you play those. With only playing 6 copies, the value per card now is capped at 5 life total, averaged out over the 6 cards you play.
wait, how much life is it for 6 of them?
Well, so you lose the blues, so you lose 1, 1, and 1,
Right,
and then
right,
you miss 6, 7, and 8 life gain.
right.
So you're down 24 from the 54.
I see now. Okay, I'm bad at math, it turns out.
You're not bad at math. I genuinely did this like a few days ago. I'm like, wait, all right, let me figure out what we're
Dang,
dealing with now.
so only defensive 5 value per card. That's like embarrassingly bad. 5 value per card? What a joke.
It
Oh wait,
is
that's
solidly above rate on defense,
still quite afraid.
at least in a card spent from deck standpoint. Having to,
Yeah.
it's still a 2-card play to make the play. Um, so having something productive to do with the third resource when you play it out is very important for not losing value through the earlier portion of the game when you're trying to get to your bigger chunks of life buffer. I think the interesting note with Count Your Blessings though is they specifically called out that like Count Your Blessings will be back. This was a card that you know it's supposed to exist. It should exist, but they acknowledged that the tools that we have currently to combat it aren't quite where they need to be for a defensive 9 of that's quite that juicy into certain decks. So it will be back eventually. It's also it's gonna be in the December Armory kit. Alex is a little livid and really hoping that he gets his Verdance cards in January because otherwise he might throw a fit.
The one set of promos in like 2 years that I've actually wanted, and then
From
if they just
Armory?
skip it,
Yeah.
and they're just
No,
like the Judge promo or something.
surely they'll make it. Pulsing Aether Life and
So-
Rampant Growth Life, they look too cool to not be printed in Cold Flow. I'm
Yeah,
even going to want those, and I am not a Verdance player yet. She needs one card. She needs one expansion slot card, and I'm in. But that's a whole different rant.
So the high octane ban that harkens back to the when the books got burned. It didn't quite fit in because it didn't draw 2 cards, so they didn't include it at the time. But even at that moment, they were like, "Yeah, this is a card that's on the watch list." And there was I didn't watch the whole game, but there was a pretty uh, crazy turn from Worlds.
Yes, Sam Sutherland took like a 23-minute turn on camera, I think,
Yeah,
involving High Octane.
just nuked, I believe, Matt Rogers from orbit and just didn't really, Okay, cool. Both teams played hard. I'll take
Yeah.
300 game actions and you die.
And I think it's important to note that like the real offender there is it was a 23-minute turn, but like nothing was deterministic and you weren't sure what you were working towards in the middle of the turn. So you had to just constantly stop and think. Kano also can take these long combo turns, but like once Kano finds Wildfire and the second combo piece, the turn takes a long time to execute, but what is happening is relatively straightforward. And Kano does all his thinking at the start. And so it's not like the burden on the opponent to keep paying attention throughout the entire long turn and realize like, oh, I maybe need to do something here now because the board state has meaningfully changed, which I think is part of what was so offensive about High Octane, specifically with like the system reset, Cerebellum processor shenanigans.
Yeah. And I liked the explanation they also mentioned in the article too about weapon attacks and their value as a you know when you pay to swing Romping Club, you got to hit somebody with
Wounding blow.
a wounding blow that didn't actually expend a card from your deck, and that's an inherent gain in a game of attrition like this.
And if you're able to swing the weapon more than once in a turn,
exactly,
then it's kind of like drawing cards.
Mm-hmm. Which actually there was also subsequent discussion in our Discord that was like, yeah, that makes Lumina Ascension a really messed up card. Lumina Ascension is bonkers if you look at it that way. But it makes sense. It lets you shoot the pistol 6 times in a turn. And you don't have to pay for it. It just doesn't quite fit with how they've been making cards nowadays, right? Like it's a potential pseudo unbounded resource in high octane, right? The only limit is how many times you can boost in a turn. And there is Twin Drive and other neat, interesting things that can care about number of boosts in a turn, but limitless action points with a weapon that costs nothing to activate is just a little too good. Admittedly, there is also room for debate as to whether it's high octane or cerebellum processor that was sort of the one final ultimate straw. But
yeah, I also, so I made a joke about this on Twitter, but I actually think it's kind of real. I also think there was an argument that Symbiosis Shot is the actual offender and is just kind of flying under the radar because it is a 0-cost weapon that can attack multiple times in a turn. And if Dash IO has to play Techno Plasma Pistol, sure, she can have a bunch of action points, but you still have to pay for the pistol shots. And then I think it still becomes like much more reasonable and lowers the, like, she can still have those spike turns, but the ceiling on them is much lower in terms of like what the mega Death Laser combo looks like. It's just my just a thought.
Yeah, that's an interesting angle on it.
I will disagree. But the weapon is what makes it so it's not an inevitability that she just gets fatigued every game. Because it's the weapon that people aren't blocking.
Yeah.
So if Dash has to boost cards as well as pitch cards just to like get damage across.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't think the deck works as well as does.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see the argument either way.
Yeah,
but that's like me going really deep down the BNR rabbit hole.
Yeah, fair. I think this will end up feeling like, when Plunder Run or Belittle first got banned, it was sort of a, not that those cards are perfect, but they were sort of this like generic platonic ideal version of this really good effect that, just maybe shouldn't be generic and give people the ability to run as a 9 of kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
High Octane is banned. There are going to be replacements, and it not existing, High Octane not existing in CC will let them print more interesting action point shenanigans that more different kinds of mechanologists play.
Like you could print High Octane again and just say that it's a max specialization.
I want them to go the opposite way because James White has talked on interviews before about how like they have had match support almost at the printer, and then they looked at it and they were like, yeah, no one's going to play this because Nitro Mechanoid is just better. I kind of want to see the opposite. I want to see a world where Nitro Mechanoid goes away just so that they can make people play cool match stuff and not just play Nitro Mechanoid. But maybe now that Octane is gone, you can also print things and Nitro Mechanoid isn't good because it's not actually solving the fatigue problem.
Yeah, I like it as an option. I don't. The thing that turned me off of Max, I was deep in brewing Max when Max was new. And
I remember that.
and I literally I tried every which way except getting in the mech, and I'm like, there's 3 other mechanologists, and everything that I've tried to do would be better accomplished as one of these other things outside of specifically getting in the mech, like getting in the mech suit. So
Yeah.
Banks is
I
pretty
remember Banksy's pretty cool. I remember the week or so you spent with Breaker Evos in the deck. I was like, that's how I knew we were
was
grasping
cool.
at
Look,
straws.
when it worked, it was real sweet, but it did not work enough. But yeah, Max will be back. Like look, this is like Katsu getting hurt for the sins of Zen. LSS are not fools. They know what they've taken from these decks, and they will come up with some new fun things to make them work again. Um, Blitz BNR, Zen unbanned. So they announced new LL rules basically, or not really. They changed what the old threshold was. It used to be a 500 point threshold. Now, for the sake of keeping their math and like event counts easier and consistent across different seasons, whether it's skirmish or PQ or RTNs, Blitz also has a 1,000 point LL threshold. All of the non-Zen LL'd heroes had their point totals like effectively doubled, and they stay LL'd. Zen does not get his point total doubled, and therefore is fair game again in the format.
And that totally didn't have any immediate repercussions at all.
No, definitely not.
No.
Definitely not.
No.
And then, if you're not familiar with the format, this probably felt like it came out of left field. If you are at all familiar with how crazy Data Doll is in Blitz at the moment, the banning of Hadron Collider makes a good amount of sense. It's just it's offense that just gets thrown into play off the top of your deck.
It's Boom Grenade that didn't have to hit and was still free because of Data Doll ability.
Yeah. The fact that Data Doll ability is any banish and not just when you boost is just
And so not only did she get Cerebellum Processor, but ironically the strongest part of the Yarl Armory deck are the 2 new armor pieces. The headpiece and the boots are insane in Data Doll. Because the headpiece blocks 3 and draws 2 cards, assuming it banishes an item both times. And the boots block 2, make an action point, and draw you 2 cards.
Oh my gosh.
It's ridiculous.
3 int who? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, Blitz is a little wild right now.
That being said, Data Doll didn't win either Blitz Battle Hardened, or one of them was a Battle Hardened, one of them was a PTI event that happened over the weekend. So we had a PTI event in Columbus. They're ProQuest Pluses now?
Yep.
Yeah. We had a PQ Plus in Columbus over the weekend, which was won by Zen. Turns out, even without all of the good ninja cards, having 9 transcends in 40 cards to tutor your mauling chi and your pouncing chi.
Chase the tail.
Chase the tail.
You say all the good cards are gone. It's like, no. They have a better density of the most important thing, which are the transcend cards. And they still just are a good chase the tail deck.
So Zen won both Living Legend and Blitz on the weekend.
Zen won both events in Columbus on the weekend. And then in Florence, Blaze won. Also, kind of just a perennial good Blitz deck.
Yep. Wizards do good things with low life totals, as it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was actually a Blaze Mirror in the finals, too.
It was a Blaze Mirror, yeah.
Maybe I try Verdance and Blitz.
Good luck. Good luck.
You can certainly try. Oh, you can run all 6 copies of Count Your Blessings there, though. Get them.
Maybe.
Yeah. That's Alex is real excited to play Count Your Blessings. If you could tell by the look on his face.
God, I can't
also
believe...
in Blitz, Belittle got banned.
Yeah, good riddance. I hate that card.
Yeah. Same reasoning as CC. It should be. That is a card that belongs in the Living Legend format, and nowhere else. A 1/6 with Go again that turns on attack/non-attack action synergies is really, really strong. And is currently the basis of my Living Legend deck. So.
Or it costs -2 resources.
Yep, also good. Head jab that gives you a refund sounds good to me. In Living Legend, Open the Floodgates is restricted. Kano briefly could play 15 tome effects, now back down to 7.
Yeah. I don't think anyone is complaining about this. He was the undisputed best deck because if you blinked, he killed you. It was bad.
Yeah. Like we're talking like, AB3 Spell Void 6 or, AB3 Spell Void 4 and still just getting nuked, and it just didn't matter.
This is what I was talking about before they did the banning of the books. When we had the Rosetta card spoiled, I was talking about how Kano is going to be absolutely insane with Open the Floodgates, and they have to ban Wildfire or else
this deck
no format is playable.
Yeah, this deck was nearly legal in CC, which is absurd.
Yeah, that's crazy. I do want to know what that. Well, in Magic they would call it the Future League, which was them playing in hypothetical future standard formats. I don't know if LSS has a name for it, but I do wonder.
We know it exists, right? Because at the New Jersey Q&A, James White was talking about how Starvo was balanced when you played Starvo versus Uneroded Briar
versus Seeds Chain.
Versus Seeds Chain.
Yep.
So that clearly exists internally.
Well, and they even were talking about once MST dropped and like Phi won their internal tournament or something too. So yeah, it definitely exists. It's just it'd be I hope they start doing like year-end like design wrap things, even if they have to like this year they talk about everything they released a year ago or something would be cool.
That would be really cool.
It's just an entire article is redacted.
Yeah.
Talking about the stuff they worked on this year. It'd be a great April Fool's joke.
You're giving me a great idea for the evolution of the fake BNRs.
Yeah. Y'all gotta stop falling for that, okay?
Yeah, it's always a lie. Every time, it's not real.
I'm trying to make them intentionally obvious and funny. Come on.
I'll help you next time. I think a few too many people believed this one.
Too many people believed this one, and that was
people
not
in our Discord believed it.
Yeah. I felt so clever about Brand with Cinderclaw. That was so good.
So the other Living Legend update was the unrestricting of Starstruck, which initially had me scratching my head. I very solidly had thoughts because, look, if you crush me with a crippling crush, I am down 2 cards, and cool, I go into my turn with 2 cards. I can play the game with 2 cards. If I get crushed by Starstruck, and by I mean me on chain, but also realistically, any Runeblade, any Ninja, and probably like at least 50% of Ranger hands like don't have a 5 power, and that's assuming they could even, like block like 7 or 8 dominate on their own turn.
And Illusionist.
Droma, yes. Prism, maybe not. It just depends how much you can prevent, right? Because like that number matters a ton. So Starstruck, if you're not familiar, is a yellow 7 cost 10 power attack with Crush, and the Crush effect is your opponent can't attack you with cards with base power less than the amount they were crushed for, which means the minimum like crush if you got crushed, you can't attack with anything that has 4 or less power, including your weapons or any attack action cards in your deck. And if you're not a Guardian, that's worse than getting Warmonger's Diplomacy most of the time.
I think the offensive part of Starstruck to me, especially given Rosetta recently, is that he now has 3 opportunities to block with Starstruck and another card for Sips, Unity, make a Seismic Surge, Somersault the Starstruck and the blue that you blocked with back. Cool, here's 2 blues to play the Starstruck, which is just like an insane 4-card hand that the Starstruck made its own Seismic Surge while defending with Unity, and then buy both of those cards back. It's like 4-card 16 with a Devastating Crush.
Yeah.
And there's not even a Starvo Fuse involved there.
Right, it's still, that's the thing. Even when it's not getting dominated, it's still a card that those decks must block. And, in regular CC, right? Like, sure, Dominate is Bravo's one thing he's got going for him. Him having Starstruck is okay, but Starstruck for 12, Dominate, go again into Winter's Wail for 4 and a Frostbite. That's a 16 value turn with potentially all of the value in the world, because you can just lock people out of playing a hand with the Starstruck text. So my concern was basically I didn't like that they unrestricted Starstruck rather than Crippling Crush, because Starstruck is so much more targeted or so much more potent against aggressive decks, Runeblades, Ninjas, I guess even Warriors, not that they're really... Yeah, it's like everything that's not another Guardian or a Wizard, realistically. And then, 50-50 on OG Prism, I guess. Like, Heralds can be pretty big, and there's some prevention that can get thrown under to minimize the crush potency.
Yeah, but do you want to throw a Herald at a Guardian?
No, that's a very fair point that I wasn't really thinking about as I said that.
But it's a legal game action.
It is.
It is
you can throw that attack. I can't throw just about anything out of my chain deck. So
no. This is what Cryptic Crossing is for.
It's still 6. If it's 12 Dominate, if I can't block 7 of that 12 Dominate, I can't use Cryptic Crossing.
You're right.
And so my thing was like, I don't love that they're, unrestricting this one that seems more poised to hurt, like, strictly the aggressive decks, the non-wizards. And then the Battle Hardened in Columbus happened, and the top 8 was 2 Zen, 2 Chain, 2 Viscerai, 1 Aurora, 1 Starvo, and my concerns about it being Starstruck rather than Crippling Crush evaporated somewhat.
Bro meta, baby.
Yeah.
You know what this top 8 needs? It needs some Icelander to cool it off.
Wait, Kevin, are you saying that the devs thought this through and probably played some games and saw that Starstruck was a totally reasonable card? Is that possible?
I'd never admit it. Okay, it does not make Starstruck a totally reasonable card. It does not. But
that is true.
It makes sense given what the current texture of the format seems to be. That said, I would still prefer it was Crippling Crush, but
I don't know that I like a format being described as having texture. That kind of feels weird.
Okay. It's got, I don't know, other nondescript features that terms of engagement for what you must be competing against?
Based on the current meta.
All right.
But yeah, I think there's something important to note with this top 8, which is there's a bunch of aggro decks here that all have a powerful burst game plan. And that's because 9th place was Count Your Blessings, Florian, OTK. And 10th through 14th place were Count Your Blessings, Mold Him, which is Decompose Old Him. There was an incredible mirror that happened between those, and when time was called in the round, it was 106 to 111 life. Um,
Flesh and
so
blood the
the
way James White intended.
so the
Wait,
Count Your Blessings steps are like acting as gatekeepers for the top of the meta right now. You have to have a plan that can beat a huge amount of life gain. And like all of these aggro depths or Starvo with a bunch of dominate can do that. But if you don't have an answer to that, like Lexi is going to really struggle because she has finite damage in her deck and not that much dominate. It's just trying to inform the rest of the meta.
So you're saying I should play Dromai?
saying it informs the texture
Uh,
of the rest of the meta.
I hate that you're right. Yeah, Dromai into Oldhim with 8 poppers is a buy. Prism also a buy into Count Your Blessings Oldhim.
Yeah, Mara. I played Mara in the Battle Hardened over the weekend, and that was the whole reason that she showed up with Dromai. She's like, I have a great. I love my matchup into Starvo, and I love my matchup into Infinite Life Gain Oldhim. I think she paired into one Oldhim. I forget if it was a Starvo or an Oldhim, but she had like 27 power worth of dragons in play. And
It
just,
was bad.
oh, cool, you had 120 life this game? Doesn't matter, I have a weapon that attacks for 30 every turn.
I was testing some LL with Mark Morrison, and he wanted to just like get reps of Acilio. I was like, well, I'll just play Dromai. I'm sure I'll get stomped into the ground, but it'll be fun. It was actually like good matches, and I think I won. I think we played 5 games. I think I won 3 of them. So it's like maybe Dromai is not dead after all. Probably.
She also has some
Maybe
really.
not.
She also has some really interesting tools from recent sets. Calming Gesture, the gloves that make a special shield on demand, are just like it's like Wave of Reality, except you also get an Ash. And Essence of Ancestry Body, the red Ward 2 when it's destroyed within its red source, is a red block 3, which Dromai loves, and it's a great like 0 for 6 in the aggro mirror races.
Except for when you're playing against Chain.
True.
That card was a block 2 into me when I played Mara, but against the Zens and the Auroras and the Briars, all of those attacks are red.
Yeah. Card's good.
Card
Just needs the right home.
Quite good.
Yeah.
Defensive Chain Ender is an interesting one.
Alright, lastly, yeah. Ban and restricted announcement. In Commoner, Aether Ironweave is banned.
Which is reasonable. It was cited for its enabling of Chain, which is totally fair because Seeds of Agony and Riftbind exist in that format. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, Bloodtorn Bodice is way cooler anyways. So the deck got a lot more neat, and now play some Arcane Cussings and do some cool gate things.
A card which is not okay on power level in Commoner. Like most of the equipment in Commoner, you're choosing between some sort of utility or a defense value. And this was Iron Rot that also made 2 resources. And a lot of the equipment in that format make 1 resource. So
not even Iron Rot, because Iron Rot has Blade Break.
It's Battle Worn. Yeah. Flesh and Blood 1.0, you were a crazy time.
Good old Aether Iron. What else? Yarl Vitrethi. Got the rest of the Yarl deck list.
Yeah. There sure are some high highs and low lows in this deck list.
Yeah, it was interesting looking through it. So this is the first time that they've put a legendary in one of the armory decks. Obviously, it's so it's a $60 MSRP instead of $40. It's the first time they've put a legendary in there, and the legendary is Gauntlets of the Boreal Domain, which is an Earth Ice Guardian equipment for your arms that has Temper 2, and as a once per turn action, you can pay 2, and then if an Earth card was pitched this way, your attacks named Mangle get +2 this turn. If an ice card is pitched this way, your attacks named Mangle get dominate this turn, go again. So this is a really nice card because so a lot of what this deck wants to do is like pay 6 resources to do a thing. In a weird way, right? So the weapon we also finally got was Summit the Unforgiving, which is an Earth Ice Guardian weapon that is a one-handed pole arm that has a base power of 4. You have to pay 6 resources to attack with it. But when this hits a hero, create a frostbite in their exposed head, chest, arms, or legs zone. And then it also has a new keyword called Heavy that is, if this is the only card equipped to your weapon zones, it gets +2. So once you burn through your Stalagmite, you now have a, okay, cool, the shield's broken, you throw it away, you put your second hand on your weapon, and you hit harder, just like in D&D.
It's really cool.
It's a pretty sweet flavor win.
I've wanted this mechanic for Warriors for a long time.
I know it literally is just screaming like, make me a polearm to play with Bastion of Unity. Like it's just right there. Just put it in the Hunted. It's so easy.
Yeah. That it is encouraging for the future of Warriors for me, because it's definitely the class if you're ever gonna sword and board.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you go.
We got fixed Winter's Wail. It costs 2 cards to swing.
It costs double what it used to.
I'm convinced that they're like, okay, so we know Winter's Wail costs 1 resource to few the first time around, and this time I think they're like, we have to be really, really safe. So I think they're like 1 resource over what it should cost this time around.
I really think this should cost 5, because then you can do like actually cool things with it. 6 is a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna make this I'm gonna try so hard to make this weapon work. It's so cool. It's so cool.
Super cool. But yes, so this deck has multiple rewards you for being able to do like 6 resources worth of stuff, right? Because Mangle is the name of the game for Jarl. Mangle is a 4 cost 8 power attack. So if you pitch one of this new Crumble to Eternity, which is an Earth Ice action, you can pitch Crumble to Eternity, 2 gauntlets, get Dominate and +2 since it has both card types or both talents on it, and then use the 1 floating and another blue to pay for a Mangle. Suddenly that Mangle is now coming in for 10 with Dominate. Much more likely to hit, much more likely to get the Mangle Crush effect, and then, clearing out equipment slots and letting the, I played an ice card effect on Jarl's hero card do the thing it's meant to do.
Also to note, the Majestic equipment, like the Olin Ice Cap, when this defends together with an ice card, create a Frostbite token under the attacking hero's control Blade Break. The gauntlets count for that ice, so you can block with 2 pieces of equipment and like get the effects, as well as the legs that want you to block with an earth card. You can.
And the legs want an aura. The chest.
The chest.
Oh,
chest, Tectonic Crust.
And Tectonic Crust is actually, I think, kind of interesting because there's a world. I think Jarl is a Tunic deck, but there's a world where he's not. And if that's the case, you can play Tectonic Crust and Well Grounded. And Well Grounded have a 0 defense, but don't have Blade Break or anything. So you can just put them on the same link as Tectonic Crust and always turn it on, provided you haven't cashed in Well Grounded yet. The other important thing to note about All in Ice Cap is Stalagmite is also an ice card. So you can give 2 Frostbites if they both defend with each other, which is disgusting.
Very disgusting. Seeing the rest of the Jarl deck just made me want more. I want Armory deck Terra. I want more exploration of Earth cards and what those do, and then more cards that are just Earth Guardian cards, so that Terra can do what Terra wants to do a little bit more.
I really liked Alex's conspiracy theory, and I'm really sad that it's Steelbraid Buckler in this deck. So I'm hoping for Mastery Pack Guardian, but so the Jarl specialization Unforgetting Unforgiving is a majestic block card that when it defends, if your opponent has a -1 armor counter, you can go get a mangle. So the card is called Unforgetting Unforgiving, and the weapon is called Summit the Unforgiving. So at some point we need the offhand Valley the Unforgetting to match the other half of the
And
block
when it
card.
defends, it lets you rebuy a mangle out of your discard pile.
That
Boom.
would be crazy.
Solved it for you. You're welcome, LSS. That one's on the house.
Oh,
No charge.
there's a remembrance joke in there somewhere.
Actually, that is really funny.
Yeah, you're remembering.
I had
You're
not thought of that.
unforgetting. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's really clever.
That's really
I'm
good.
smart. What can I say?
Yeah.
People should listen to me more often.
Like in the upcoming Verdant's deck tech that will be coming out later this week.
Everybody
So-
says the hero's bad, but I keep winning with it, so
You're not wrong. It's a good point. I think my biggest takeaway from this deck is, and Rhea said something about it earlier, it's just the highs are higher than the average Armory deck has been. The lows are lower.
Dear Lord. What is Sigil Verse doing in this deck?
Strong Yield Blue is a card I didn't even really want to play in Rosetta Limited. So admittedly, it is an aura, which there's a little aura sub theme going on in the deck with the Rootbound Trunks, which are the Earth Guardian leg equipment that are just Blade Break 1, and when this defends together with an aura, create an embodiment of Earth. So there's a little, a minor synergy package there, but the aura bit is like borderline an afterthought. I think they needed to fill the deck out. They needed blue cards. They needed, some purpose for them. But they couldn't just fill it with, blue Thunderquakes and infinite blue 3 blocks that Guardians have ample of. So it gives you an easy part of the deck to be like, ooh, okay, this is what we're going to upgrade first.
Yeah. I don't know. They're just throw blue Sotomaro in here, and it's like, okay, I at least see the vision. Rebuy some of your good attacks, like
Yeah.
Snow Under.
I think the biggest head scratcher to me in this one, I think, is Amulet of Ice. So
yeah,
feels
so
like
you
a
have
sus inclusion.
so you have Snow Under and Exposed to the Elements
emerging
and
avalanche.
Emerging. Well, yeah, if you're playing Blue Emerging Avalanche, things are going poorly. No, the other good one, Frozen to Death. I think the idea is that you're supposed to play your amulets and then play your Exposed to the Elements and crack your amulet in response, so they don't have cards in hand to pay for your Exposed. But that trick
That's a lot of
barely worked in Icelander, and it wasn't worth playing. So I'm gonna imagine it also is not worth it in Jarl.
Yeah, that's fair.
Exposed is cool. I can kind of see the vision with that one because you expose one of their equipment slots with a double fuse showing a blue Autumn's Touch and a blue Winter's Grasp, and then those fuse reveals are your 6 resources to swing Summit, which they now have an exposed equipment slot. So like, I can at least see the dream on that one.
Yeah, I mean it's cohesive, as a reasonable count of Earth and Ice to let you do the things the deck is trying to do. You'll be able to get the value out of your various equipment pieces that want to work with the different bits of synergy in the deck list. And I think there's 2 big takeaways from this deck list for me, though. One is they made sure that the legendary in it, while it seems very potent, at least in my opinion. It's very narrow because it
Yeah.
is a legendary equipment that does a really undeniably very powerful thing, but it cares about exactly one named card that no other Guardian has really wanted to play up till this point.
Have you seen there actually are Starvo lists that are playing Gauntlets of the Boreal Domain over Crater Fist or Gauntlets of Ironwell? Strictly because it's decomposable. It's an earth card, so you can banish it to your Felling of the Crowns.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I dig it. It's yeah. So it's but the the effect itself, right? Like is
Right.
the effect it's bringing to the table is very narrow. And if you're talking like, okay, cool, the upside is literally, oh well, this Temper 2 Guardian Glove happens to be an Earth card. Okay, great, we did it. Like, awesome. Please decompose it. Seems like I don't know, they managed to take a big swing with the card, but there's really solid, I guess, bumpers on this particular bowling alley that it's not gonna be like, oh well, you can never play Guardian again without this.
Yeah. It also it seems like based on the card database, by the way, I don't know that we've discussed this actually, the three of us. The deck is going to come in some form in both rainbow foil and non-foil for all of the equipment and weapon and Yarl cards. Every other Armory deck before this only has entries in the card database for rainbow foil cards, but all of these cards exist in rainbow foil and non-foil in the database for the Jarl Armory deck. We don't know if that will be a random thing. We don't know if every deck has both. We don't know. But I'm honestly excited to get non-foils. I am a notorious rainbow foil hater.
I agree. I like that it's not going to be all one or the other. Otherwise, I don't care a whole lot. I guess I like that they're both available for the people who care a lot, whether it's foil or non-foil.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other takeaway from this deck list that I suspect points towards the future of the Guardian class in general, right? Like in the early days, Guardian's greatest strength, or I mean, and it still is a strength, right? Their card pool is like the baseline of their card pool is pretty powerful and very consistent. But you look at Gauntlets of the Boreal Domain, they care about exactly one named card. Olin Icecap cares about ice cards. Each of the different equipment pieces has a different bit of synergy with the cards in your deck, rather than just like a resource
Guardian.
threshold or a like generic Guardian vibe. And I think that's the sort of thing that we'll probably expect to see in the future with just any future Guardian design. Guardian is going to need to get with the times, and if they want to do busted stuff like everybody else is doing, they need to not be like, oh cool, my deck is 40 blue 3 blocks, 34 of which are like 6 or higher power attacks, and like check all of the boxes that you want for like Anathos or Titan's Fist or whatever. They're gonna enter Fab 3.0 with the rest of us.
Hopefully Fang gets the Warriors there.
Please, LSS, for Alex. please,
Ian.
Please make Fang pretty good.
Mostly Ian.
Also,
I'll
poor Ian. At least like you dabble in the Ranger and the Illusionist enough that like, oh, Warriors still not great. Okay, I'll play the other two classes. And Ian's like, I'm all
Ian's
in
playing
on
Yarl.
Warrior.
It's okay. He's learning Yarl.
Okay, that's fair. Just another thing that'll be dead to Enigma.
So Kevin, you went to the Battle Hardened. You wanna run us through your your weekend?
I did go to the Battle Hardened, and it went really well. I'm on a pretty solid string of LL Battle Hardens here. Uh, so the last two, I went 7-0 in Swiss back in LA, that Living Legend Battle Hardened. Lost in the quarterfinals to Michael Fung. This time around, I went 6-1 in Swiss, on chain again. My one loss in Swiss was to Chris Ayali on Viserai, who actually Chris ended up making the finals from my side of the top 8 bracket, and was the one who lost to Dan in the finals there. Um, but yeah, so my day started not exactly how I would have expected, because round one I played an Oldhim, which I haven't. I think I've played Oldhim in Living Legend exactly one time at a random skirmish event that we went to.
Nothing like a 50-minute grind fest to start your morning.
Yeah, so that did take most of the round, but I was able to like get downhill as chain quickly enough that you know I'm like having 15 to 20 damage turns, and okay, cool, count your blessings, gain 3 life. Like it just didn't quite line up the way that the Oldhim opponent needed it to. And like by shackle 7 or 8, I've you know had a 30 damage turn to put it away. Uh, Round two was arguably the most interesting game I had in the entire event. I played Andrew Weber, who is someone that he's a Michigan local. He uh, was playing Starvo, and it was a race to the bottom on whose deck could draw worse. Like funky hands, funky on resources. My banishes were bad. He only Starvo fused like 3 times in the game, and only one of them was on like a premium attack. Um, one time it was literally Starvo fused these 3 blues, attack for 7 into Frosty 4. And we got down to this really, really late stage of the game. It was like 2-2. Uh, if I had one more life to give, I could have kept a third card and felt confident about my chances to just close out and win the game. Couldn't keep a third card. I keep exactly 2 blue Seeds of Agony in hand so that I can unlock the Bounding Demogons in my Banish zone. And I'm like, worst case, I can at least clear my Banish, not die to Husk, and like live to fight another turn cycle and try and win on the following turn. Except on this was Shackle. I think I flipped 4 Shackles because I got hit by a cut through a facade at some point and lost one. Flipped 4 cards, flipped 3 more Bounding Demogons and an Unhallowed Rites, all of which, so I'm at like 7 Blood Debt at this point when I'm at 2. So I'm like, okay, well, I am not living past the end of my turn at this point. So it becomes what's the best, hardest, like, kind of turn I can present to try and win the game. And so, like, Seeds of Agony, Shackle, Yellow Bounding Demagon, and I knew something was up when a Felling of the Crown was pitched to stop the first point of Seeds of Agony going through. And my opponent had their deck had the last laugh on drawing badly, as they drew a hand that was 3 red Autumn's Touches and a Felling of the Crown, which let them be exactly dead to the
4 arcane
nine
plus any
damage I
vehicle.
presented. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That was it was absurd. I was like, I'm so dead, and then he's just like, you got me. uh, One of the weirder
Crazy,
ones for sure.
crazy game.
Uh, Round 3, I played against Roger Bodie. He was playing Starvo, and I drew pretty well. I banished pretty well. And there was a turn where I was like, okay, I got him on the back foot and just didn't let up the gas. That one was just pretty fortunate draws on my half. So 3-0. Pairing to Chris Iali in round 4. Chris was playing Viserai. We hit that was another one of like low roll fighting low roll. It just we couldn't get anything to go. I think we both just had some shockingly low value turns for the Living Legend format. I think I attacked with Belittle without searching like 2 different times in the game. It just nothing was cooperating. And he eventually he hit me with a good Succumb to Temptation at some point that just like stole my only blue and nuked my follow up damage output. And he was able to close that one out at the end. Round 5, I played Mara Ferris, and she was playing Dromai. And Rosetta Thorn is still really good there, as is Belittle. And I won that one pretty comfortably. Dromai needs to sort of have a really solid early high roll into a slow chain start for that to go Dromai's way, but was able to get the win there because things were rolling. But Belittles were searching for minnowisms, which is just always a good sign. And killing Ashwings with Rosetta Thorn. Yeah, they should. Or they should, I don't know, let more people have Aether Ashwings. And actually, it's not as fun as killing them with Flail of Agony. Killing an Ashwing and getting
it hits, huh?
Yeah, it hits. that was the whole reason I took Vincent to Worlds. But I digress. So round 6, I faced Travis McDaniel. He's one of the Wolfpack folks. I believe he's on a very similar deck to the Belittle Viscerai that Michael Hamilton was on the weekend. And we had a really close game. And I just was able to get there in the end. I had a turn where I had to, if I didn't manage to require him to block cards from his hand, I was just definitely dead. We had a not planned but gentleman's agreement. Neither of us brought Arcane Barrier, so Viscerai be doing some arcane, so I had to take cards and scrape together like it was like a 23 damage turn that pulled 2 cards from his hand, and I was able to just finish it off from there. Round 7, I had a Chain Mirror, my first one of the day, and that one, I don't know, kind of a weird game, but my opponent admitted that they hadn't actually played much Chain before, so I think I just sort of had an advantage there. And
Kevin, have you played a lot of Chain?
A few games,
right?
A few games. Yeah. I actually generally really like the Chain Mirror, as weird as it is. There's a lot of variants with the shackles and everything, but they usually are some fun games. He did have a turn though where he started with Toma Fyendal from Arsenal with Eloquence in play. So like draw 2 cards, gain 5 life. He ended up drawing 6 cards on that turn because at some point he creepers in an additional Toma Fyendal, and it was wonky, but I was just a little too far ahead when he popped off, and it didn't really end up mattering. Plus, the top 8 was actually locked after that, and the final round, the top 4 tables were strictly playing for seed.
Weird.
Yeah, it's just how it broke. It could have gone a different way because there was, I think like the last 2 rounds, Dan had a tear down. I think he was the final undefeated. And then in the top 8, I faced the Zen player who won the PQ Plus event in Blitz the next day. His name is Wyatt, and he was stoked because he said it was his first time that he like top 8'd an event like a Battle Hardened, and then he proceeded to utterly destroy me with a. I think we did the math on it. It was so I went first, and on his 3rd turn, I started at 21 life, and he hit me for 42, which killed me through 5 cards of blocking, Carrion Husk, Boots, and Grasp of the Arknight defensively, and like exact seeds me on turn 3. So a little disappointing to die in the quarters again, but at the same time, I didn't really do anything wrong. Sometimes you just die in Living Legend.
It was one of the fastest top 8s I've ever heard from a Battle Hardened.
It was it was 7 genuinely aggro decks, and then Starvo was the slowest deck of the bunch. Like Yeah,
None of
it
the
tracks.
count your blessings decks made the top 8. So.
No, they all kept getting paired into each other and then drawing because they couldn't kill each other. It's like, yeah, you're
not bringing-
gatekeeping everyone else, but also
People not bringing
yourself.
Sledge nowadays, or what?
I don't think.
No, most. So
I
I,
don't
I
think
think
it's
they all
worth
showed up
it.
not expecting. There 84 player event. There was 6 Oldhams that showed up. I think they were all on Sib, and I think they probably showed up being like, oh, if I show up to this event, I'm gonna be one of like 2 Oldhams in the whole thing, right? Never gonna pair into another one. Who needs mirror attack? I just need to be able to fend off all the aggro decks. And I think they basically all showed up with that same mindset, and then started drawing into each other when the pairings came out.
Honestly, I think my favorite thing that I learned over the weekend is the 9th place Florian list. I'm not so sold on the Count Your Blessings, but Skeleta to germinate for x equals 30 is really cool. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, and that same. I think the reason that it's good, and I think the reason that I would lean towards keeping Count Your Blessings in it is Count Your Blessings also just works with the same or the other like combo cards that they might be playing, like Thistle Bloom Life.
Yeah, that's true. I just think it's interesting. I think OTK Viscerai is kind of dead because I think Florian is just doing it better.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. He's better at playing defensively while setting it up, and then life gain just pads the stats more.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still a bit. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
I just thought back to the progress where I played against Pat in the finals, and he wasn't on OTK Florian, but he was running blue root band carapaces, and he played the first one,
Burnt.
and I just laughed out loud, and I was like, Pat, if I told you a year ago that you were going to be ecstatic about playing a blue 1 block, like you would probably hit me in the face. And he laughed. And he was like, yeah, well, it's really good in this deck. I was like, I believe you. Like it's doing the thing, but a blue 1 block.
And it specifically is for blocking. Yeah, you're so right.
Yeah.
Fab 3.0 is crazy. Crazy.
We live in wild times.
Yeah. But yeah, Calling Chicago is in several weeks, or I guess before we jump to that, I got lucky and ended up on the opposite side of the bracket from Dan, he's who I rode down to Columbus with, and I also made top 8 with him at his first Battle Hardened win in Columbus, and he beat me in the top 4 of that one. We got lucky this time, and I was 3rd seed to his 1st seed, so we were on opposite halves of the bracket, and I tragically couldn't hold up my end of the bargain of winning my half, but I'll get there eventually.
And I was there too.
Rhea also attended.
I attended. I 3-2 dropped playing Prism. Solid tier 1.5 deck. Kind of a joke next to the actual good aggro and control decks of the format.
I chose not to go because I wasn't interested in playing Lexi or Dromai in that field.
Probably smarter than me.
I don't know. Like if you hit the right pairings as Dromai, you're golden. But
I mean, if Jem had just served me some of those Count Your Blessings old him, I would have just snored straight through Swiss and top 8'd, but
I don't know. I'm looking at that top 8. It does not
it was
seem
not
very
kind.
friendly to Dromai.
Yeah, that's true.
you would have landed in the top 16 with all the Count Your Blessings decks. Like this is where Prism thrives. But yeah, so this was a quick look into, I guess, what the new state of Living Legend is, right? Like Rosetta shook things up quite a bit. There was the restrictions related to Zen with him using Bonds of Ancestry. So there's just a lot of new and a decent bit of like unknown in the format. Obviously, people still generally had an idea of what would be good, but the actual, I guess, matchups and how things played out, honestly, the biggest surprise to me is that there wasn't a Kano that made top 8 of this event, given how good that deck is in Living Legend. Um, I
I'm
think the oh god.
I'm just trying to think about if Icelander can actually beat these aggro decks. I'm not sure. Dang, I might try though.
Chain and Viz are both belittle decks.
Yeah, I could beat Chain. Viscera is hard. Viscera is hard. Zen is also hard. He's like half blue. Starvo is really, really hard. Aurora is probably a good matchup. All right, maybe
Maybe.
it's not nice under meta.
Maybe.
Maybe. Never played it. It's good until proven otherwise.
It's true. I haven't seen proof to the contrary. Therefore, can't be false. Um, yeah. So I think I alluded to it earlier when I was talking about Starstruck versus Crippling Crush, but it definitely at least looks for now to be an aggro format still, which probably isn't terribly surprising to a lot of people, but I do wonder how close those count your blessings decks are to sort of having these aggro decks figured out and being able to consistently just you know blank enough of their damage that it doesn't really matter which aggro deck they are playing. I think it's going to be interesting over the next month to figure out which of these aggro decks tends to have an advantage into one another. Um, for instance, I think Viscera is very good. I think Viscera is a bit faster than Chain, at least like out of the gates, right? Because Chain doesn't have Soul Shackles to begin with. Uh, but Zen is much better into Viscera because of Kasaya giving the Zen state on demand. Um, I think there was a Zen state that I saw Dan make in the top 8 that like immediately blanked 9 damage of a 11 like damage attack. It was like Thorn and 7 Rune Chants, and Dan's like Transcend, get rid of this Zen state, take 2, uh, which is pretty gross. And that's the kind of thing that having a decisive tool to give you a true advantage in a matchup like that is really important, and I think will help inform the decks people end up on for Chicago. We might still just be in Zen's format. The deck is very strong, has good armor, and is both explosive and consistent,
I
and
think the
able to
record
block.
that I think a record that I saw for Dan was Stubby Hammer is buffing 10 attacks in one turn. So a casual, it's nearly 2 carrion husks in your arm slot.
Yeah. I think he told me he Mask of the Pouncing Lynx for Assault the Wound for 11 at some point on the weekend. Like it's just that sort of value on equipment that's just sitting in play is backbreaking. But that's Living Legend, baby. Um, yeah, so I think it'll be interesting to see what aggro deck wins the sort of the aggro arms race. I think it'll also be interesting to see can the Guardians, can Starvo figure out these aggro decks while also not just, losing points into the Sib Oldhams and OTK Florians that are out there. And which aggro decks are resilient enough to not just roll over and die to Sib. Talking to Pat Eschke a little bit on the weekend, he's like, I think this deck just always is able to fatigue Chain because I think he was running is it Amulet of Echoes? Is that which one makes you discard 2 cards?
Discard 2 if you've
Yeah.
played the same card twice. Yeah.
Yeah. So just
He's got Amulet of Echoes. He's got Blue Fertile Ground for more life gain. It is a very efficient card per deck, life value per card deck. We got there eventually.
yeah. Yeah. So there's an interesting arms race brewing, and it's going to be very interesting to see it come to a head in the first ever Legend Calling Chicago.
Yeah. I might be just playing side events that weekend. I'm very unconfident in my ability to break the LL format.
I am confident in one thing, and that's my ability to pilot a chain deck. So
I am also confident in your ability to pilot a chain deck.
even if it's like we come to the conclusion that it's not specifically the best positioned of those aggro decks for the format, I'll probably be on it anyways.
You should still play it.
Yep. Turns out muscle memory very, very important and helpful in this game.
Well,
Any other living legend thoughts or closing thoughts?
rest in peace, Kraken's Vein Verdants. If you want to learn more about Verdants, you can check out Alex's deck tech coming out later this week, right here on the IP3 channel. It's for Classic Constructed. It has Aetherize in it. That card is actually good. Surprise.
Can't sell it to you any better than that.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out, everyone, and we'll see you next time. See ya.